The furnaces are getting fired up this week and the next for the visit of the artists, the Torre brothers. These two mixed media artists were brought out to UWRF to interact with and teach the art students in their craft. Einar and Hamek de la Torre grew up in Guadalajara, Mexico, and moved to California when they were very young. After growing up and during their attendance at California State University, Long Beach, they both found they had an affinity for glass art, and after finding out they made amazing art when working together, they have been collaborating ever since. On April 19th, the brothers did a glass demo for the art department and students, where they created a sculpture of a heart in front of a captive crowd, though not without the help of some glass studio students. The brothers themselves were brought here by the Wyman visiting professors and the Year in Mexico programs, and a good choice, as they have been good with the students and include a lot of their Mexican heritage in their works.
Since we don't have a hot shop ourselves, to us just getting back to working with hot glass is a thrill, really, basically. And right now, getting back in this shop, it's a great shop and it's a really great group of people, so that's it, that's what I really want to do.
Yeah, I agree. And the students seem to be so excited, which is wonderful to work with such a great crew.
One of the student helpers for the brothers was Tynan Pertumwan, a BFA glass major who observed firsthand the approach the brothers take to their art.
These guys are like banging out lots and lots of bits and bringing this and that and then putting more and more color on it. I'm just not used to seeing that much, in a work style, and I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to assist that.
Later in the day on that 19th, they also did a presentation for a crowd of students in the North Hall Auditorium at 5 p.m. The crowd was composed of both art students and those taking notes in the presentation with their notebooks and computers. The brothers presented some of the works they had created over the years and took questions after it was done. Although it's not just glass that the brothers work with, their work contains a range of found objects and materials that one would normally not see in sculptures like theirs. Beans, plastic dolls, and cheap wooden crosses are among the items one can find in the works of the brothers. Their works borrow many different images and aesthetics from different cultures, which they have been fascinated by for a long time.
I think probably since we were raised Catholic, there's a lot of imagery and a lot of layering of imagery, so we're very used to it. And also in Mexico, on a popular street level, there's also a lot of information, a lot of icons and imagery layered upon itself. So I think that we naturally gravitate to a sort of saturation of things.
They were also able to give some words on some works they've done in the past.
So this piece, it's called La Reconquista, which means like not the conquest, but the reconquest, meaning that we're revisiting the conquest. And it is based off a painting by Hans Memling. And it's a triptych depicting sort of the Last Judgment, heaven and hell, people being, the archangel is weighing souls and seeing if you're going to go to the left side would be hell, and to the right side it would be heaven. The other way around, sorry, dyslexia. So what we did is we replaced the archangel with Cortez, and therefore it's almost like being judged: are you going to stay Indian or are you going to become Christian? And of course, this could have a great bearing on your future, whether you survive or not. And we're making fun of that in a tongue-in-cheek way, that if you stayed Indian, you would go to hell, and if you became a Christian, you become sort of slightly whiter and therefore enter heaven on this side, which is Bank of America. So we're making fun of all of those institutions and the idea that it's a monetary issue, really, after all. Slavery and other things.
But the title of the piece is La Reconquista, the reconquest. So we also have another layer, which is what we believe is happening in modern Mexico, which is the takeover by the super ultra rich. We have the richest man in the world in a country like Mexico, and as we know, it's also happening here in the States, the takeover of the super rich.
VW is not Volkswagen; it's Virgin Whore. So the idea is to how we, idolize women in one way and demonize them in another. And we wanted to sort of speak about that, what contradictory messages we're sending young girls and so on with marketing. So these are posters that are bought in Puebla, Mexico, and I was fascinated by them being sold in Puebla as a sort of weird Western aesthetic that it's actually from Japan. It's a really odd mixes of things. And what we did is we just poured resin on them and added implements of our own. Like this girl has a resin gun with a plain deck of cards inside. So we're having fun, I think, with the layering of odd juxtapositions, finding them in a town like Puebla. It all gets very convoluted as to the origins and the motives and stuff. So that's where this series comes from. Although it's funny, these have not had a easy acceptance within our work because they're so different than other pieces we've made. So we've shown them in a couple of venues, but they've had a hard time fitting into our regular repertoire.
Given that their works include a lot of religious and political subtext, they talked of times where they got bad responses and good responses to their works.
Well, probably the worst comment we had was we had a gallery show completely destroyed by a lunatic that came in.
What?
Kind of a Jesus freak came in. And,
1995.
Of course, he was mentally damaged in some way, but he broke into the gallery and broke everything because he literally believed that some of the representations of human sacrifice were real in our work, even though we take a lot from cartoons. It seems so ridiculous, but it didn't happen.
So we have had strong responses to our work.
Yes.
In LA, we had the Catholic Anti-Defamation League threatened to boycott our show, and the dean told them to just go see it. I said, that was a good response, because he said, have you guys seen it? Well, then just go see it. And then it all sort of fell apart, and we never got. Although we would look forward to having our show picketed, because that would be great publicity.
And they do have some projects ahead back at their homes in Ensenada, Mexico, and San Diego, California.
We have a museum exhibition in Denmark, so we got to go to Denmark in the fall, and then again in the winter to set up the exhibition, so probably install a brand new installation. And also we're working on a large public art commission that we have in LA, so we're busy this year.
The Danish show has an interesting added angle that Aarhus in Denmark is the designated cultural city for 2017, and what they did there is they divided the 7 museums. They decided to do thematic, and they went to the cardinal sins. So each museum picked out of a hat a different one, and the glass museum picked out sloth. So they were faced with they already knew they wanted to work with us. So they were faced with the funny moment of trying to tell 2 Mexicans that come to a show in Denmark about sloth. It was funny, possibly racist feeling to it, but we understood it wasn't their fault. And of course, we love irony, so that's just funny to us. And of course, one of the bigger ironies, for instance, is that the Mexicans that come to the United States are actually some amongst the hardest working. Because they're doing the jobs that a lot of people don't want to do, and of course long hours and low pay. So there is an irony in calling Mexicans slothful when they're actually working harder than the people that hire them, that's for sure.
The brothers will be around the art department into the next week, and students will continue to try and bring their best to these artist brothers. For the River Falls Update, this is Ryan Funes.